Never go jogging after midnight. In Colorado Springs, everyone knew one rule: never go jogging after midnight. Locals whispered about strange things walking the trails once the clock struck 12. Two-year-old Emma, a night shift nurse, didn't believe in superstitions. She loved the quiet, cold air and empty paths at night. One night, she put on her headphones and started running along her usual trail. Everything felt normal at first, the crunch of gravel, her breath in the cold air. But her music began to glitch. The song slowed, warped, and whispered, "Go back, he's behind you." Emma froze, her heart pounding, and looked around. The trail seemed empty. She kept running, trying to shake off the fear. But ahead she saw a tall, skinny man standing perfectly still. His face was blurry, like fog covering his features, and he didn't move. She stepped back. The figure slowly stepped forward. Suddenly, all the streetlights flickered out, plunging the trail into darkness. Emma heard footsteps multiplying, not one person, but many whispering, breathing, surrounding her. She sprinted, but no matter how fast she ran, the footsteps stayed too close, too many, too unnatural. The next morning, her running shoes were neatly placed on the trail, but Emma was gone. Locals say that after midnight, joggers still hear footsteps behind them, even when alone. Moral: the night hides things that daylight cannot respect the warnings, or you may become one.
Never play the dead cat game. In a quiet town in Ohio, kids whispered about a game called the dead cat game. The rules were simple but creepy. Draw a chalk circle at midnight, place a toy cat inside, and whisper, "Come back," 3 times. Most kids thought it was just a silly dare. One night, 4-year-old Mia decided to try it with her friends behind an abandoned house. They laughed nervously as Mia whispered the words 3 times. At first, nothing happened, just the sound of the wind in the trees. Then the wind stopped suddenly, and the night became completely silent. The toy cat twitched on its own, its button eyes turning toward them. The chalk circle cracked, and a shadowy cat crawled out, its bones bending, tail broken, jaw hanging open. It let out a sound that wasn't a meow, more like a human scream. The creature lunged at Mia. She ran as fast as she could, screaming into the night. The shadow followed her home, slipping through cracks under doors and windows. Every night after, Mia heard scratching at her door, growing louder and more furious. Her parents saw nothing, but Mia saw glowing eyes under her bed, watching her while she slept. Locals say the dead cat still waits, ready for anyone foolish enough to try the game again. Moral of the story: some games aren't games at all. Never call what you cannot send back. He crawls like a human spider. In a quiet neighborhood in Portland, Oregon, kids often whispered about a creature called the Crawler. They said it looked human but moved like a spider, crawling on all 4s. According to rumors, it only appeared late at night when the streets were silent. 16-year-old Ryan laughed at the stories and said monsters weren't real. One rainy night, Ryan stayed up late playing video games alone in his bedroom. Around 2:40 a.m., he heard slow scratching coming from outside his window. Thinking it was a raccoon or stray cat, Ryan walked closer and pulled the curtain aside. A pale human face was staring back at him upside down, eyes wide and unblinking. Its body clung to the wall, arms and legs bent in angles no human should have. The creature suddenly moved, scuttling sideways and backward without making a sound. Ryan grabbed his phone to call for help, but the lights flickered and the room went dark. From the silence, he heard something crawling inside the walls, moving closer to his door. Soft tapping came from the ceiling, then slow scraping sounds along the floor. The bedroom door cracked open by itself, and a long, thin hand slid in from below. The next morning, Ryan's parents found his room empty. Only long, dusty fingerprints across the ceiling and walls remained. Moral of the story: when something feels wrong at night, trust your fear. Some things are not. Never ignore dog barking at night. In Madison, Wisconsin, 8-year-old Sarah lived alone in a quiet house with her dog Max. Max was a gentle and loyal dog who almost never barked without a reason. Every night at exactly 2:13 a.m., Max began growling at the dark hallway. For 3 nights, Sarah ignored it, believing it was just raccoons or shadows. She softly told Max, "It's nothing, boy," and went back to sleep. On the fourth night, Max's growl suddenly turned into loud, desperate barking. Sarah woke up with her heart racing and turned on the hallway light. The hallway looked empty, but the air felt cold and heavy. As Sarah walked back to her bedroom, Max stepped in front of her, teeth bared, refusing to move. The hallway light began to flicker, and the temperature dropped sharply. At the far end of the hallway, a dark shadow slowly formed from the walls. Max lunged forward, barking and snapping at something Sarah could barely see. The shadow stretched taller and whispered her name in a broken voice. Sarah. Terrified, Sarah grabbed Max and ran outside into the cold night air. The next morning, she found long, black fingerprints burned into the hallway wall exactly where Max had been barking. Moral of the story: dogs sense danger long before humans. Never ignore their barking, it may save your life. Never play with the snowman. In Anchorage, Alaska, children loved playing outside during long winter storms. But adults often warned them, never play with a snowman after midnight. Most people thought it was just a scary winter story told to keep kids inside. 12-year-old Jake did not believe the warning at all. One snowy night, he waited until his parents were asleep and quietly went outside. The wind was silent, and fresh snow covered the ground like a white blanket. At 12:03 a.m., Jake finished building a tall snowman with stick arms and a crooked smile. As he stepped back, the snowman's head slowly tilted, even though Jake did not touch it. Jake laughed nervously, thinking his eyes were playing tricks on him. Suddenly, one stick arm moved and pointed straight at him. The snowman's mouth stretched wider, forming rows of sharp, icy teeth. The snow around Jake's boots tightened, pulling him down like invisible hands. The snowman leaned forward, its hollow eyes glowing a dull blue in the dark. Jake broke free and ran toward his house, but his footprints filled in behind him, erased by the thin shadow chasing him. The next morning, neighbors found a new snowman standing in Jake's yard, wearing Jake's hat and scarf. Jake was never seen again. Moral of the story: some winter legends are not stories, they are warnings. Ignore them and you may vanish like the snow. Never open the fridge at midnight. In Cleveland, Ohio, a 19-year-old college student named Mia lived alone in a small apartment. The place was cheap, clean, and close to her college campus. When she signed the lease, her landlord gave one strange warning: never open the fridge after midnight. Mia laughed and thought it was a bad joke. A fridge was just a fridge. For weeks, nothing strange happened, and she forgot about the warning. One night, she stayed up late studying and fell asleep on her bed. At 12:17 a.m., she woke up hungry and decided to get a snack. The apartment was quiet as she walked into the dark kitchen. The fridge began humming loudly, slow and deep, almost like breathing. Mia hesitated, then remembered the warning, but hunger won. She opened the fridge door. Instead of cold air, a warm, rotten wind rushed into her face. The shelves were gone, replaced by a dark tunnel stretching deep inside the fridge. From the darkness, a long, pale hand crawled out and gripped the door. A broken voice whispered, "Thank you for opening my door." The hand grabbed Mia's ankle as the fridge stretched wider, opening like a living mouth. The next morning, the fridge looked normal again except for a message written in frost inside. Next meal, taken. Mia was never seen again. Moral of the story: curiosity can open doors that should stay closed, especially after midnight. If your parrot cries in a child's voice, don't ignore it. In Tampa, Florida, a man named Mark lived alone in a small apartment. His only companion was a talking parrot named Kiwi. Kiwi was famous for copying sounds, but usually only said simple words like, "hello." One night, at exactly 2:30 a.m., Mark woke up to the sound of quiet crying. The cry sounded like a small child sobbing in the dark. Thinking the TV was on, Mark walked to the living room, but everything was silent. The crying came again, weak and shaky, coming from Kiwi's cage. Mark slowly stepped closer, his heart racing. Kiwi leaned forward and whispered in a child's voice. "Help me, he's in the walls." Mark froze. The parrot had never spoken full sentences before. A loud thump suddenly hit the wall behind the cage, making it shake. Kiwi began flapping wildly, screaming, "He's coming! Don't let him out!" A long crack spread across the wall, and freezing air poured into the room. From the crack, a dark hand slid out, fingers bending the wrong way. Mark grabbed the cage and ran outside barefoot into the night. When police returned with him, the wall looked completely normal again. But inside Kiwi's cage were tiny claw marks bent inward, as if something had tried to escape. Moral of the story: animals feel danger before humans do. When they warn you, listen, it may save your life. If a new kid appears on your school bus, don't talk to him. In Austin, Texas, kids rode the same yellow school bus every morning. The seats, faces, and sounds never changed. But one foggy Tuesday, something was different. A new kid sat in the very last seat of the bus. No one remembered a new student joining the school. He wore an old, faded uniform and dusty shoes. His head stayed down, and he never looked up. As Emma walked past him, he softly whispered, "Sit with me, I'm lost." His voice sounded wrong, like it echoed from a faraway place. Emma sat nearby, noticing that none of the other kids reacted at all. They talked, laughed, and stared ahead as if the boy didn't exist. Emma asked him his name. Slowly, he turned his head. His face was pale, and his eyes were completely black and empty. The bus lights flickered, and the windows no longer showed the road. Outside was an endless maze of yellow halls and buzzing lights, the back rooms. The boy smiled too wide and whispered, "I don't belong here, but you can come with me." The floor beneath Emma's seat began to sink, turning into a soft, humming carpet as the boy crawled toward her, bending in unnatural ways. Emma screamed and leaped into the aisle. When the bus stopped at school, the fog was gone. She was safe, but the back seat was empty, except for a folded note that read, "Next time, don't answer." Moral: not every stranger wants friendship. Some want company in places you can never escape from. If you ever hear a girl crying in your school bathroom, run. In Chicago, Illinois, students whispered about the third-floor girls' bathroom at Jefferson High. They said a girl had died there years ago, but no one knew her name. Some students claimed that at night, the bathroom cried for her. One afternoon, 15-year-old Lily stayed late for detention. The hallways were empty, quiet except for the ticking clock. Suddenly, she heard soft crying coming from the last stall. The sound was slow, shaky, desperate, like someone begging for help. Lily called out, "Hello, are you okay?" But the crying only grew louder. The stall door creaked open, but no one was inside. She stepped closer, and the lights flickered, going out completely. Darkness surrounded her, but the crying didn't stop. It echoed from every corner. The tiles under her feet felt wet, though the bathroom was dry. A cold breeze whispered along her neck, carrying a voice. "Stay forever." Lily tried to run, but the hallway seemed to stretch endlessly. Every door she passed led back into the same bathroom, as if trapped in a maze. A shadow moved across the mirrors, shaped like a girl, her face pale and hollow. Terrified, Lily finally broke a window and jumped outside. The sun was rising. Even after that morning, the crying followed her in dreams, soft, pleading, always nearby. Moral of the story: some sounds are warnings. If you hear cries in places meant to be empty, don't investigate, run while you can. If someone calls you from the kitchen at midnight, don't ignore. In Seattle, Washington, 1-year-old Jenna lived alone in a small apartment. Her neighbors often joked, "Don't answer strange voices at night." Jenna laughed, thinking it was just superstition. One night at 12:32 a.m., she heard a soft, familiar whisper, "Jenna, come to the kitchen." She thought it was her roommate returning early, so she ignored it. The voice called again, louder and more desperate. "Jenna, it's cold, help me." Her heart pounded. She tiptoed toward the kitchen. Everything looked normal, but the lights flickered, casting long shadows. A shadow moved across the fridge, though no one else lived there. Suddenly, the oven clicked on by itself, and a cold hand brushed her arm. Jenna froze, feeling breath on her neck. The voice whispered again, "Don't turn around, it's watching you." Trembling, she slowly turned, but the kitchen was empty. The windows stretched unnaturally, showing a hallway that seemed endless, like the back rooms. She ran, but every step echoed with whispers, following her through the apartment. The lights flickered violently, and she saw brief glimpses of a pale figure in the shadows. Jenna slammed doors, but the whispering grew louder, closer, more urgent. By dawn, she collapsed outside, terrified. The apartment was silent again. The police found her apartment normal except the kitchen door slightly ajar and frost spelling a message. "Next time answer." Never break the eye contact with this white deer. In Burlington, Vermont, hikers spoke quietly about a strange white deer. It only appeared in deep forests at dusk, never during the day. Legend said if you saw it, you must never break eye contact or you would disappear. Alex, a 9-year-old adventurer, laughed at the story. One foggy evening, he walked alone on a trail. Suddenly, he saw a shimmering white deer standing perfectly still. Its eyes were completely black, staring straight into his soul. Alex froze, trying to hold the gaze, thinking it was just a trick of light. The forest grew eerily quiet. No birds, no wind, no rustling leaves. Shadows around him twisted strangely, stretching like fingers. Distant whispers seemed to echo his own thoughts, repeating, "Look, don't look away." The deer stepped closer, its hooves making no sound at all. Alex felt his legs stiffen, as if roots were growing into the soil. A cold voice hissed in his mind, "Look away and never return." His eyes started watering, his body trembling, but he could not break the stare. The fog thickened, and the forest seemed to bend around him. By dawn, Alex was gone. The trail was empty, silent, and chilling. All that remained was a faint, glowing white hoofprint, and the forest now whispered his name to anyone who dared enter. Moral of the story: some creatures are not meant to be seen. Respect the warning. Staring too long may trap you forever. Bathroom Ghost Hanako-san. In Tokyo, Japan, there was a middle school with one strange rule: never use the girls' bathroom, 3rd floor, stall 3 after 5 p.m. Students whispered about Hanako-san, a ghost girl who never left that bathroom. Some said she could pull you into the stall forever. Mia, a new student from the USA, didn't believe the stories. One evening, she stayed late for cleaning duty. The hallway was empty, but she heard water dripping and soft footsteps behind her. Curiosity made her walk toward the bathroom, ignoring the warning signs on the door. When she opened the door, the lights flickered, and cold air swept past her. The bathroom smelled strange, like wet paper and something rotten. A soft voice whispered, "Are you there?" From the empty stalls. Mia's heart pounded, but she stepped toward stall 3, her hands trembling. She knocked once. The stall door slowly creaked open by itself. Inside, she saw a pale girl in a red skirt, long black hair covering her face. The ghost's eyes glowed faintly as she smiled slowly. Hanako-san whispered, "Play with me forever," her voice echoing in the bathroom. Suddenly, the lights went out completely, and Mia felt icy hands brush her shoulders. Terrified, she ran out, down the hall, and didn't stop until she reached the school gate. From that night on, Mia followed every school rule carefully, never ignoring warnings again. Moral: curiosity without caution can lead to danger. Respect warnings, they exist for a reason. The Ghost Daughter. Grandma's Secret. In Portland, Oregon, an old woman named Grandma Rose lived alone in a small house. Years ago, her only daughter, Clara, had died in a car accident. Grandma Rose never got over her grief, keeping Clara's room exactly the same. Every night, she would talk to Clara's photo, whispering, "Good night, my sweet girl." One stormy evening, the lights flickered and went out completely. Grandma Rose lit a candle and heard soft footsteps upstairs. The sound was slow, deliberate, like someone walking barefoot. She whispered, "Clara, is that you?" But no answer came. Suddenly, her daughter's favorite music box played by itself, its tune echoing through the house. A pale figure appeared at the top of the stairs, a girl in a white dress, hair wet from the storm. Grandma Rose gasped. It was Clara, but her eyes were hollow and dark. "Mom, why did you leave me?" the ghost whispered, her voice both sad and angry. The temperature dropped, and Grandma Rose felt icy fingers brush her hand. Clara floated down the stairs, moving without touching the floor. Shadows stretched across the walls, twisting like they were alive. Grandma Rose fell to her knees, tears streaming, begging, "I never left you." The ghost paused, then slowly smiled, fading into the candlelight, leaving only a cold breeze. From that night on, Grandma Rose often heard soft whispers and footsteps. Clara's ghost never left, watching from the shadows.